The first thing we wanted to talk about is the concrete moves that some of the biggest players in tech are making around humanoid robotics. Meta, for example, are kicking off a new unit in their reality lab for robotics. And this is maybe a bit of a pivot, a recognition that their VR world isn't really coming to fruition. Instead of, I suppose, creating virtual reality, we're moving some of that virtualization into the real world with robotics. At the same time, Apple has also kicked off a research unit that is seriously investigating robotics. And apparently, according to this report in Bloomberg, there is a roadmap of robotic type devices that Apple is planning on releasing, culminating in a humanoid robot. That will obviously be several years away. Apple are pretty conservative, but they are moving into robotics and headed in that direction. And similarly, Google DeepMind, which is, of course, the division of Google that has been responsible for a lot of the fundamental progress in AI and LLMs that has brought us to this moment, is now investing directly in robotics. So a lot of things happening where these companies are now taking robotics seriously the way they were taking AI, or perhaps the way they started taking AI seriously a couple of years ago. So Chris, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, you combine that with Boston Dynamics, reboot into electronic robots with their Atlas robot. Figure just raised 1.5 billion with a B at a $39 billion valuation for their incredible robots. You talk about NVIDIA and their robotics platforms and tools, which, by the way, is another reason why I'm bullish on NVIDIA way beyond GPUs. We're entering the era of robotics, of embodied AI, and this is very, very exciting. To look at this more broadly, new platforms generate massive new value and invention, but also new form factors, which themselves are forms of platforms, generate massive new value and change, right? If you think of the advent of the personal computer from the mainframe, the advent of the laptop, the web was kind of a change in form factor, iPhone, earbuds, and now we're heading into, I think, glasses, and we're heading into robots. This is going to be, another 10, 20, 30, 50-year cycle of just massive, massive value creation, invention. We're finally seeing our Jetsons future of flying robots and AI and all this sort of
Mm,
stuff. I don't know about flying robots, but we'll see.
we might.
And I'm giddy with excitement about it, honestly. I think this is why I got into technology, was a talking car in Knight Rider and the AI computer in Star Trek. And we're sort of finally seeing this hard tech play out instead of this kind of trivialities of social networks and social apps. I think, what are the implications for founders? It's a new form factor sitting on top of a new software platform, generative AI, which means a whole raft of new problems, opportunities, and exciting startup bets can be made. That's number one. And number two, it means that there is huge amounts of capital that is of hardware quantities, right? It used to be just software capital. Silicon Valley was afraid of hardware for a long time, which is ironic given it's called Silicon Valley. But the hardware is back, baby. And so those are the two big takeaways. Whole classes of new opportunities and problems, and whole classes of new investment categories that are opening up, and just dollars and dollars and dollars being poured in.
I agree. And, maybe another thing to think about in this context is that we can move up the stack. So I think until now, we've had robotic startups. But what does it mean to be a robotic startup? It means you're doing something about the creation of robots, right? Sort of fundamental research or fundamental development of robotics technologies or control technology for robots and things like that. In the same way that an AI startup 5 years ago was doing like stuff in AI. But now we talk about this incredible flourishing in AI. AI is now a tool that you can leverage to solve real world problems, right? So we've gone from, okay, we're building this sort of foundational technology to we're now thinking about how we can leverage that foundational technology. And I think similarly, to use robotics in your startup, you no longer have to be a robotic startup, or at least, over the coming 12 months, I see that increasingly true. There is a platform for you to leverage, right? There are robots out there. They're all programmable. They're becoming increasingly affordable. So start to think, if you have access to robots and you can program them, what sort of product could you build that leverages that tool? Or if you're trying to solve a problem, right? We talk about falling in love with the problem. How could robotics be part of the solution? It's another tool to now add to your toolkit. And so I think as a founder, you really need to be looking to this near horizon. It's gone from far horizon to near horizon. Certainly not mainstream yet, but this is where some of the biggest opportunities come. and you can now stand on the shoulders of these robotic giants rather than having to build the robots yourselves.
And also, what new classes of problems emerge in a robot society? Charging stations, injuries, personal injury, insurance, maintenance, training, personality, hot swaps, jailbreaks, like, clothing lines. I don't know, right? There's just whole new classes.
Come with me if you want to live.
Exactly. Time machine, time travels.
Yeah, time travel and like laser blasters. Okay. So robotics, it's a trend that's coming. It's real technology. And I think we're living in these exciting times. And Chris, you say it's like science fiction and you're giddy. And it's true that a lot of these things have been science fiction tropes for such a long time that it's sort of easy to dismiss them, right? I grew up watching the Jetsons. Some of our younger listeners may not have heard of it, but it was this sort of retro futuristic sci-fi show that was originally created, I think, in the 60s, flying cars and household robots and so on. And that future never eventuated, right? Instead, we got the internet and cheap commercial jet travel and, all sorts of other things that seem more prosaic to us. So we were on a different timeline. And so it becomes easy to dismiss robotics as nearly this retro thing, right? Robots and AI are like a future that didn't happen. But the funny thing is, it is now happening. And so see through some of that weird, romanticized mid 20th century thinking that you may have dismissed and be like, okay, here is the technology that's available today. What kinds of amazing things can I do with it? And that's where I see AI and robotics kind of nearly sitting together in this current trend.
Yeah, we got the information revolution, right? But we never got the material science and the hardware revolution. And we went down this deep, deep rabbit hole of information technology. And now we're playing catch up.
I mean, on behalf of material scientists everywhere, I would say if you look at advances in fiber optics, in chip fabrication, and things like that, there have been incredible material science advances, just not in the directions that we expected.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm just talking about stuff you can physically hold in your hands, like robots,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
flying cars that defy gravity, this kind of stuff.